Russia has been banned from competition in next year's Winter Olympics in South Korea by the International Olympics Committee, which begs the question, how bad does your organization have to be for the International Olympic Committee to pass judgment on your behavior and punish you? Also, how long before the Trump family invokes their own ban on the Winter Olympics in solidarity for their Russian comrades? Democratic Congressman John Conyers resigned from Congress today after a nearly 53-year career, becoming the first Capitol Hill politician to lose his job in the torrent of sexual misconduct allegations sweeping through the nation's workplaces. I can't say this is a travesty for government. I mean, the guy's been in Congress since 1964, long enough to remember a time when sexually harassing coworkers was considered to be an inalienable right. According to CNN, Vice President Pence's aides are anxious that Pence will be summoned for an interview with special counsel Robert Mueller. Well, if you subpoena if Robert Mueller subpoenas Mike Pence, remember, you also need to subpoena his wife, because Pence doesn't meet with other women without Mother there. Which, considering the current climate, doesn't seem like such a bad thing. I mean, imagine if Matt Lauer and his wife had that kind of arrangement. President Trump forged ahead Tuesday with plans to recognize Jerusalem as Israel's capital, despite intense Arab, Muslim, and European opposition. This has led to rampant speculation that the president is simply trying to distract from the Russia investigation. I think that's just a silver lining for Trump, because he's clearly way more focused on propelling anti-Semitism. And finally, the Republican National Committee and the White House have both officially endorsed Alabama Senate candidate Roy Moore in the runoff election next week. President Trump said that they need the Republican vote in the Senate. So remember, ladies, come forward, tell your stories. You will be heard, you will be believed, unless it's politically inconvenient. The Trump Report starts now.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AfterBuzz TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Oh, it's the end of the 17. It's the end of the century. It was in my head, and I'm like, great, I have an excuse to use a Ramones song. This is a very special episode of the Trump Report because it is our last episode for 2017. Welcome. I'm Christian Bladt at ChristianDMZ, joined as always by, for those watching on YouTube, on my left, your right, Chelsea Galicia.
Hello.
Where can people find you, Chelsea?
At Chelsea Galicia.
Thanks for keeping it simple. And special guest in studio, the continuation from our first part that was during Political Beat, Drexel Hurd, whom I believe can also be found at Drexel Hurd.
That is right.
But unfortunately, the two people on the bookends are the ones without the simple Twitters. Right. Scott Moore at SMan80. Yeah. Exactly, and thank you for being here. This is very exciting that we have sort of a continuation of what we did an hour ago on the Political Beat. Really just mere minutes ago we finished, but it started an hour ago. And I was just so excited because to me, this was like a big TV crossover. You know, I was thinking that it was like when Sophia from Golden Girls ended up on Empty Nest, or even bigger than that, it's like Hurricane Saturday, which was on Empty Nest, Golden Girls, and Nurses. And I'm sorry, Chelsea didn't understand any of that. And I was going to use a different reference. I'm like, well, she's not going to understand that either. It's like when Thomas Magnum and Jessica Fletcher were on the crossover of Magnum P.I. and Murder, She Wrote. She's not going to know that either. So it's a great, great crossover.
How am I the oldest one? And
you are not the oldest one.
Whoa.
I'm 41.
I know.
I was looking in
You mean
this
of
direction.
the three?
You mean
I believe I'm the youngest, and that's...
Yes.
And how do y'all know this
I'm
stuff?
too old.
I know how everybody. I'm
too old to be part of Run for Something. That's how old I am.
Anyway, and also, by the way, in the booth, Anthony at Tony B. Dead, D-E-D. Tony, if you could bring up the chat, we have some friends who joined us during the previous hour over there on Political Beat, including Storage Yard Resident, who, look, there's a lot of things we can look back on in 2017. I think the closening, yeah, it's a word, between Chelsea and Storage Yard Resident in terms of their beliefs, you're never going to be on the Trump train, but there's a lot of things he says that you go, what? You know what? Yeah. he's right.
I can't say you're wrong.
Yeah. R. Scott Brown says that it's like a crossover having Mork on Happy Days. No, it's absolutely nothing like that because that was where he first premiered. Mork and Mindy is a spinoff from Happy Days, but nice try. Anyway.
There's a difference between crossover and
but I only went into it because I just wanted Chelsea to shake her head
The
more.
only crossovers that I know are like Law and Order.
And Homicide?
And like Chicago PD.
Oh, so this century.
Yeah,
Okay.
or like Grey's Anatomy and Private Practice.
You had to have known about the Golden Girls at least.
Or Grey's Anatomy and their upcoming firefighter show. Okay, I'll stop.
You guys
We'll
haven't
stop.
heard of the biggest crossover?
The Flintstones meet the Jetsons. That was amazing.
Crisis on Earth X with all the CWDC shows.
I'm sorry,
I don't even know what that
DC
means.
still
Yeah,
DC still makes superhero shows? I didn't realize. But you can catch me Mondays on Marvel TV Weekly, 7 o'clock here on AfterBuzz. Anyway, before we dive into the politics and all that stuff, you know, we were talking on our last show that I hoped to be able to make it here tonight, but with my wife expecting, you know, we didn't really know when the baby was going to come. And earlier that day, I was like, oh, it's probably going to be pretty soon. What I didn't realize is that a mere let's see. Let me do the math. If the Trump report ended at 8 o'clock and my daughter was born before 4 a.m. the
Oh my
next day,
God.
I didn't even
Wow.
know
I did
that.
not realize how close we
Wow.
were. Yeah, my wife woke up at 2 a.m. with contractions, and we were at the hospital in under an hour, and then about an hour from there, 3:53
Oh my God.
a.m.
She was
my
ready
daughter
to
Lucy.
come.
Oh, she was. Yeah, Lucy was 21 days early. She's doing great. Both mom and baby came home. But yeah, she clearly wanted to be here for the Political
Right.
Beat Trump Report crossover,
She did.
and she's already following at Trump Report ABTV. And what's the Political Beat?
At Political Beat TV.
TV. Yeah, she has a Twitter. She's
where
6
can-
days old, and she's following them both.
So I told Kristen she's running things. Did you guys have a go bag?
Yes. Well, my wife did. And I needed it because I didn't think it was going to happen, you know, that day. I was like, all right, I'll do that by the
Get to
weekend.
it.
And so I had to kind of throw some things
Such
in there.
a man.
Yeah, well, I did a lot better the first time. For
So
our son.
fast.
It was
Yeah.
crazy fast. So something to keep in mind, ladies. If you're starting to have the contract, just go to the hospital right away because
Oh, I think that's great.
that happened so fast.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they try to discourage you. They're like, you know, you're gonna feel these things that are like they call it Braxton Hicks. Not gonna get into it. It's just these phantom contractions. No.
It's not
Both
phantom,
times.
it's just the wrong
Both
direction.
times. Yeah. My wife felt him, and it didn't take that long. So anyway, so that's what I've been up to the last
Lucky,
week.
lucky.
And yeah, so I've tried to stay abreast of the news, but as I said during Political Beat, if it's not written on the inside of a diaper, I may not have seen it.
Is
But
Felix still in diapers?
he is, and now you've just diaper shamed him because we're working on potty training. We're definitely working on potty training. It's a slow, you know, he's not even 2.5 yet, so it's all right. It's a slow build, but I'm gonna let him know. Auntie Chelsea wants to know why you're still wearing diapers, and.
Well, congratulations, Kristen.
Thank you.
Big
Oh, no,
congratulations
thank
on
you.
that.
very
Yes.
exciting.
Anyway, there's obviously so much to talk about, and you know we'll talk a little bit about some year-end stuff, but there's just so much right now stuff that it's kind of, well, crazy's not a strong enough word. But Steve Bannon's going to rally in Alabama tonight, actually, so I guess it already happened, alongside Roy Moore, even though there's new evidence of more sexual misconduct. Now, my question for the panel, and I'll start with you, Scott, who would you least want the endorsement of? Roy Moore, Steve Bannon, or Harvey Weinstein?
Oh.
It's not
God,
an easy choice.
You put me
yeah,
on the spot with that
it's a
one.
very different variation on the old F, marry, kill game. You know, where you have to pick one to F, one to marry, and one to kill. Or I guess in this case you could play kill, kill, kill. But yeah, because it's just like Roy Moore getting the endorsement of Steve Bannon. I'm like, does that help? I guess it helps. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
But does Steve Bannon want the Roy Moore endorsement? I don't really know.
who would get what
While you think about it,
endorsement? Oh,
R.
that's
Scott Brown in the chat
horrible.
says that my son Felix is getting kickbacks from Big Diaper. Absolutely. This segment of the show is brought to you by Pampers and Huggies. It's really just one company all coming together. And boy, there are a lot of big diapers, but you know what? now for my daughter because she's like what they call a late preemie. Really small diapers. It's crazy how small they
The
are.
diaper industrial complex is a big.
Yeah. Anyway, Scott, you don't get to skirt the hard questions. Who do you least want the endorsement of? Roy Moore, Steve Bannon, or Harvey Weinstein?
God, that is horrible, and I had no time to prep this.
I know. Well,
They're
that's
all
why
horrible.
that's why I'm doing it right now. Do you need to yield your time? Do you need to pass, and we'll come back to you?
Is there a query?
I don't. Can I? I know. I can't even say none of the above. Like there's no.
No, you got to pick one of the three. That's those are the rules here.
God.
Okay, for a second,
I
let's
got it.
take.
I got an
Okay,
answer.
okay, good.
I think I have an answer.
Bannon just because he has a bigger platform.
That's fair. Just for a moment,
Slid my way out
Scott,
of that
we're gonna take Harvey Firestein. Sorry, Harvey Firestein. Harvey Weinstein out of it. If it's just Bannon and Roy Moore, who are
I
you
guess
picking?
I would have to say Bannon only because. God, there's just no good way around.
But I mean, the only girls he ever molested were over 18.
That's what I'm saying. At least
Allegedly is a joke.
Allegedly,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
I was just saying, you know,
Yeah.
Roy Moore's disgusting.
But obviously,
So I think if I had
Harvey Weinstein. It's really hard to not say Harvey Firestein. I'm so sorry. I have to apologize to Harvey Firestein tonight. I didn't mean to drag him into this. Huge fan. But Drexel, what do you think as you hear this? It's a preposterous question, but
It's definitely Steve Bannon.
Yeah, I
I
guess
mean,
we
like
have
if
to.
anybody has a voice, or at least what he thinks is the pulse of the Republican Party, or at least if I was a Republican, or at least a Republican in this day,
well,
and age,
anymore, yeah.
then yeah, I would be like, oh yeah, Steve Bannon. Anybody would want him because like nobody is like denouncing Steve Bannon on the right.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, I'd want.
No,
I'd
it's a
want
great
him.
point.
They're not denouncing Roy on them.
Well, not anymore.
Not
I mean,
anymore.
now Mitch McConnell has to stand by what he said previously,
stand by
but
his man now.
those aren't really the marching orders anymore.
Right.
It's, you know, it's no, we need that vote, and it's really
The
important.
Mercers have not written out what they want.
Yeah.
So.
Another story going on right now. A lawyer for President Trump says that it is not true that special counsel Robert Mueller subpoenaed financial records from Deutsche Bank. Now, Chelsea, as you hear about this story, what do you think? Do you think that is it possible that President Trump's lawyers could be trying to mislead us, or do you think that it's just actually fake news and that they were not subpoenaed? Because I believe that Sarah Huckabee Sanders said that they checked with the bank. And, you know, they looked into it to make sure.
They checked with the bank.
Yeah,
the
checked with the bank.
big thing. Everybody at all the.
Well, they went to, you know, probably like the Chase Bank on, you know, 18th and Pennsylvania Avenue just to see if they knew anything because it was closed.
I'm going to venture to say that it's legit.
So if that is indeed true, not what do you think they will find? What do you hope that they would find? Like, you know, this is basically a Christmas show. So if you could write, Dear Santa, here's what I would like for Robert Mueller to find. Doesn't even have to be confined to this specific subpoena.
The likeliest, greatest thing to find would be some sort of deal where he sold real estate to the Russians. And that's how he got money. But the selling of the real estate was just a ruse.
All right. I think
was just a way
that
to
would be
get
enough.
money?
Drexel, if you were writing to Santa, what would you like to find under the tree?
I would really like to know how much other people are paying for Donald Trump's stuff, and that he doesn't actually have the money. Like I would like Deutsche Bank, or at least for us to realize that Donald Trump never had the money, and somebody else was bankrolling his private plane, somebody else is bankrolling his estates, because we know that he, you know, has been bankrupt several times. So I would just like the truth about who is funding the Trump empire, and that it may or may not be Donald Trump himself.
Good one.
Yes, which they've said, and we've heard rumors about that. I just want to see his tax return.
That's all you want.
Because he's lied
I
and
don't think the
misled
bank
and
has
held them.
them.
No, but I'm just saying if I had
Yeah.
anything. But yeah, the bank, it would be good just to see what ties he has. These kept so private, and I guess in a way of knowing, you know, what he's been doing, which I do feel is a lot of shady deals. But I do agree with you, Drexel. I do not think he has the money, and that's why he doesn't want to release the tax returns.
Do you guys
and
think
doesn't, you know, want people to know what he's been involved with, because I think it would get rid of the whole image that he has of being this successful businessman, which was basically talk about fake news, it was all made for The Apprentice. Because he was not really a successful businessman, and he had suffered multiple bankruptcies, and this was part of the ruse to make him seem like he was bigger than he really was.
Are any of those people successful?
Who people?
From The Apprentice?
Any of the winners?
Any of the
once
winners?
it turned into Celebrity Apprentice, it's hard to say. When it was just regular people on The Apprentice, I don't really. I think it was kind of a
like the
mixed
first
bag,
one
yeah.
was pretty. Like Bill, who is what's her name's husband?
Oh, Rancic, right?
Bill Julian Rancic's husband. Omarosa obviously has been kicked out of the West Wing for taking photos taking wedding photos and not telling anybody inside the White House.
What do you mean?
Yeah, she had her wedding.
Wow, how did I not hear this?
And
This
then
is amazing.
and then she took her wedding photos inside the White House, but did not tell anybody. And then they found out, and then she's been kind of banned from the West Wing. She's not doing anything.
Wait, someone married Omarosa?
Well, if you remember, she was she was dating Michael Clark Duncan. She was there when he died.
That's right.
And so those are the only really two Apprentice people that I know.
I know,
about.
Sam.
No,
I
yeah,
really watched the
exactly. Like
show.
Celebrity Apprentice, it's just it's
Although I covered Celebrity Apprentice on
Did you?
AfterBuzz for a
That's
while.
really?
I filled in for somebody, and never in a gazillion years would I have thought that.
Yeah, out of all the people on Celebrity Apprentice, who would you have had to pick to be the president? Not the host. I would have probably picked Gene Simmons, although he was born in Israel, which will tie into another.
Right.
So actually, I don't think
Nice
he could be
segue.
president.
Yeah, that's funny.
I just realized it. I'm almost awake. Well, because we mentioned it, and there was a little reference to it at the top of the show. It's a fascinating concept that I don't think I realized. I understood the idea that you could move the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, but the idea that it's then the capital will just by default become Jerusalem. It's such a weird thing, and this is one of those things I referenced this when we were doing Political Beat, that I heard about this for the first time while I was on the treadmill. There was, Sarah Huckabee Sanders.
Way to, shout out to your workout.
Oh, believe me, I gotta do something. It's gotta get out of the house. If I gotta go to the gym to do it, I'll get out of the house. No, I hadn't been since Lucy was born, and you gotta stretch because you do this movement a lot. For those that are just listening on iTunes, you're cradling a baby in one arm or another constantly. But this story, I was just like, this is so weird. Scott, did you know? Did you know that you can just decide we're gonna move the embassy from London to Manchester? I mean,
Where did this come from? What?
Well, it's something that during the campaign, the president had talked about.
Where did it come from? Steve Bannon. I mean, that's where it came from. That's where it's this is important. You got to put it by the West Bank. I mean, this is the guy who runs the website that anytime you have the name of a Jewish person, there's a picture of a globe next to their name. So clearly, it's part of a very calculated agenda by Steve Bannon.
Of course, and it has to be. It's not you just put it anywhere you want. Obviously, that country has to approve of where it is, and most of the time people are putting embassies in that country's capital because that's where the business happens.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, theoretically, you could put it anywhere, and that's sort of why we have consulates all over in different parts of the country.
Fill me in.
Too.
What's Steve Bannon's end game?
Hard to say.
War.
Yeah, well, a race war. I mean,
But this is, if you look at Benjamin Netanyahu. Listen, there's a reason why.
Oh, you mean Bibi?
Bibi Netanyahu.
Yeah.
There's a
We're tight.
reason. There's a reason
Come, Bibi.
why the last two presidents were not a fan of Bibi Netanyahu. And for a Republican president like George W. Bush to not like him, and for on the complete opposite side where Barack Obama was not a fan of Bibi Netanyahu, obviously there's a problem with this guy. And I'm not an expert on Israel politics or politics with Israel, but I'm sure he's got his fingerprints written all over it, and this is something that he's wanted for a long time.
Yes.
And it will only escalate the conflict between Israel and Palestine as we get closer to that. And I think that Chelsea made a point right before we started that this is what Donald Trump is hoping for, which is an escalated war that he believes that he can control in the Middle East, and that he can send Jared Kushner to try and fix if he's not in jail. And so I think that this is what Donald Trump thinks his end game is, because Donald Trump can't go anywhere else in the world. He can't control what's happening in North Korea because they're kind of a threat. Nobody in the Middle East is a threat to the United States. Israel is not a
they
threat.
think Iran might be.
Right, right. But I mean, like in the idea, like nobody in the Middle East is as much of an existential threat to the United States, and Donald Trump believes that he can control that.
Well, and he hopes he can to distract for other things, but also, let's be honest, Donald Trump lives off of chaos anyways.
Right.
So whatever he can do to kind of shake things up and, have controversy, he's going to do. So that's part of his
Do you
game
think
too.
that, because my idea was like, where can he make himself a hero? So you kind of poke the hornet's nest, and then you save everyone who's getting stung, and then he will claim all the credit for peace in the Middle East.
Exactly.
Is that?
By the way, a little tangential, where can he look like a hero? Something that he didn't get enough credit for is, making sure that those asshole UCLA basketball players, didn't get put in prison for the rest of their life.
No, actually, he had nothing to do with it.
He's the president. He had met with the guy, I forget his name. Is it Deng Xiaoping or is it another guy? Is it Hu Jintao? I can't keep track.
It was already in the works.
Yeah, well, it doesn't matter. You're the president. You speak to the leader of China. It happens. It doesn't hurt the process. So just to say, hey, hey, thanks. I didn't vote for you, but thanks anyway. But that's the sort of thing where he could be a hero, but you know what? He's like, well, that's not worth it. I don't even get credit. But you know what? He doesn't want the credit. He wants to be the martyr. He wants to be like, oh, look at all this great stuff that I did, but I don't get credit for. Sad exclamation point. I think he should start using the sad emoji, by the way. No more sad exclamation point in 2018. That should be his resolution. They should actually make a sad emoji that is sad Donald Trump. I don't know who has to create that.
Just with an orange hue and some crazy hair.
Yeah, it would look like, let's see, it's just an orange face, sort of weird hair. So kind of like a sad Mr. Smithers from The Simpsons. I think the skin tones are, that's another TV show.
That one
I know, I'm just being obnoxious. I don't know. I find that the whole thing it was just such a baffling concept to try and wrap my head around, that Trump wants to move it. And look, I have friends who work for the State Department, and there's different classifications for posts, but I have friends who work for the State Department that want to soon not be working for the State Department, but a year ago, or no, 13 months ago, liked their job. That all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, you don't want that Israeli post if it's Jerusalem and not Tel Aviv.
I just want to point out on this Jerusalem piece of it, because what's going to happen is, obviously this gets moved. Our allies around the world are kind of probably going to be upset, or at least in that region. There's going to be escalated violence. Congress has yet to approve any additional funding for embassies like they did when Benghazi happened, when the Obama administration and Secretary Clinton asked for more funding and they didn't give it to them. So we know since then Benghazi was obviously a product of failed Republican leadership. And we're going to see possibly at the rate that this is going, that there could be a potential attack on a move like this if they move that embassy to Jerusalem, because it is a target for disaster.
I mean, is he trying to create more pissed off people who become terrorists?
I don't know that he's trying to, but that's the proverbial silver lining, I guess. Because it's more, if we go with the theory that he wants to rescue us from the chaos, then yeah, absolutely. Let's see, we have Lady Goth says, sometimes I wonder what the Middle East would be like if we redid the 80s. Demonaut says you got to go back to the 1900s or even centuries earlier. And it's true. I mean, it's the idea that Donald Trump can control a situation in the Middle East that, started, I don't know, 1,000 years before he got his loan from his dad and started his failed business empire. It's that long ago. It's so long ago. But it's, and the Demonaut clarifies, talking about U.S. and British involvement in the Middle East at the beginning of the 1900s. But there wasn't Twitter back then, so did it really happen? It's a conversation for another day.
Scott Brown believes that what you believe, that they're the whole martyr thing.
Oh, yeah. Well, go ahead and read the comment from our Scott Brown. And these are in the chat for those watching on YouTube. Join us in the chat.
Cross-eyed. Trump is a political pyromaniac. I like that. Yeah. Who wants everyone to feel sorry for him because he's constantly getting burned, and alternately wants everyone to praise him for dousing fires.
I like that. That's very clever.
That's very
Political
and-
pyromaniac
yes, it is.
and burned in the same.
Yes.
Are you sure you're not Scott Brown, the senator? We've been said for all this time that it's not.
Yeah.
This is very,
Maybe it is.
very cogent thought.
He's not. As
No,
as- he's
former
senator.
senator. No, it's been a
Senator.
long time actually.
Yes.
You know, it's good that he had the pickup truck that he drove around when he was campaigning because he had to, clean out his office pretty quickly. So we talked about this again at the beginning of the show, the light mirth segment that we call jokes. Both the White House and the RNC officially endorsed Roy Moore because, as we saw with the tax cut, what did you call it, Drexel? The political beat?
Donor Relief Act.
The Donor Relief Act, but you had the word scam in there somewhere.
Oh, the GOP tax scam.
Yeah, the GOP tax scam. That one vote makes a tremendous difference, and they're going to go ahead and put that ahead of any of the allegations, even the ever-increasing allegations. And once again, you hear these things, and you know who I feel bad for? Billy Bush. Because you know what? He's the only person that's lost a job in like the last year plus, and all he did was laugh and was awkward in front of somebody he was paid to interview. But all these other guys all these other guys are going to come out ahead, and Roy Moore is going to end up in the Senate. I firmly believe that. I don't have, and Scott and I, we've said this for weeks. I don't have faith in the people of Alabama. But Drexel, I'll start with you. Do you feel realistically that Doug Jones will it'll be close no matter what, I think. But do you think Doug Jones has a chance?
I think that he does, and I said it on the political beat, that as long as the turnout for African Americans is high in the state of Alabama, I know they have Alabama. For those that may not know, Alabama actually was one of the states that reversed their felons can now register to vote in the state of Alabama. Not that that's any.
Are you saying that felons are African Americans?
No,
that's the most racist thing I've ever heard, Drexel.
No, what I'm saying is that's another part of a demographic that that was not eligible to vote a long time ago. So if African Americans turn out, if those who have been incarcerated turn out because they've seen the prisons, the inside of the system, then they're going to come out. I think right now I'm watching the Atlanta races. The results are coming in, and if black folks don't turn out, then Doug Jones is going to lose. If they do, in a city like Birmingham, which if more black people turn out in Birmingham, then it's going to be great for Doug Jones and not really great for Roy Moore. But on the other side of that, I think that if Doug Jones wins, he'll win by 1%. If Roy Moore wins, he'll win by 1%. So it's basically it's going to come down. It's going to come down to like the last few votes.
And look, I don't think it's a particularly racial statement. It's not profiling. I've been to Atlanta. I've been to Alabama. There are a lot of black folks there. So if they vote, I think it'll make a tremendous difference. I think you're absolutely right that I think it would, in both instances it would definitely hinge on that.
Not only that, if you have the turnout, but also if you have repressed turnout from people on the Republican side. Maybe some Republican women that feel more uncomfortable voting for Roy Moore, just thinking of those accusations, and so that those voters don't go out and vote, and then you get a strong turnout from blacks, then I think there is a good chance for him. I think there's definitely a chance for Doug Jones. I just don't.
And you're going to get people who do write-in votes for Luther Strange, for Jeff Sessions.
Like Richard Shelby said, the other senator had said that he is going to do a write-in vote. I don't know if he's changed his mind because it was a couple weeks ago, but he claimed he was going to do a write-in vote because he would not vote for his own party's candidate. So it will be interesting to see. But right now, because of the fact that they've now sort of made it okay to vote for Roy Moore again with the GOP and the and the president, then I think it's even more likely now that he is going to pull off the win there, and then we'll have to see what the Republicans decide to do next year.
Chelsea, do you, like Anne Frank, have faith that people are basically good and will actually...
Do you want to know a true life real story? I think, what grade is it that you read?
5th grade. Diary of Anne Frank.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, it was 8th grade in my school. Maybe we didn't go. I didn't have as nice a school as Drexel did. You know.
Fifth grade sounds about right. And I remember that line, and it was like a mini assignment that the teacher asked, "Do you believe in that?" And we had to like write a paragraph.
And the answer was no.
I said no.
No exclamation mark.
So have you changed? Have you become more optimistic? You know, fifth grade wasn't that long ago for you. I understand.
Thank you. Yeah, actually, I think I have. I think that evil people are good people who are wounded.
Wow. Did you say that?
Did you say? I know. It was like that's
Did you
pretty impressive.
Wow,
I
no,
like that.
I'm sorry.
Put
R.
that
Scott,
on a shirt.
R. Scott
like
Brown.
that.
What she just said
Yeah.
was better than what you said, and what you said was good.
Yeah,
that was
I think
just
so.
happened to
I
be
think
better.
the other
That's a
the
good
other
tagline
point
right
the other
there.
point about the
I
Alabama
guess I'll
race
write
is
that
that
down then.
Yeah,
write
please
that
do.
down. Write that
Hashtag
down.
evil
Me-
people are
meme
wrong.
it.
We're gonna tweet
Yes.
that out later.
Yes.
That people forget that Alabama's in the Bible Belt, part of the Bible Belt, and part of the reason why I think that Roy Moore can get away with what he's getting away with right now in terms of Christian right is, first of all, 71% of Republicans, we found out last week, don't believe these allegations
Right.
in general. However, the same allegations that are happening to Roy Moore are also happening in churches, and people know about it, yet they still stick by their pastors. So I think that there is I don't know why, but I have a feeling that there is a correlation between that. This idea that, listen, this guy's a Christian, we will stick by them come hell or high water, and people would much rather not talk about it and still know about it and still kind of give them the benefit of the doubt.
I
Absolutely.
think people feel like my pastor's getting accused of something. How did I not know this? How did I not get a sense that this was a person who would do that? And so you lose you kind of are hurt in your own ability to
your own
trust in
judgment.
who and so it's easier to say no, he really is a good guy, that's made up, because it protects your own sense of trust in your judgment.
Exactly.
So that's my pop psychology
Yes,
lawyer,
and there's some of that,
politician
and I
talk.
also think there's some people that, and I've heard some people there that said they will just never vote for anyone with Democrat, regardless. So it's like,
But will they stay home? Because
Well, that's
that's
the
what we
real
were saying
question.
earlier,
Is are they going to stay home?
are some of those people that feel uncomfortable about it just not going to go out and vote? And it is a special election, so you're going to get the most
engaged.
electorate out there.
And I don't think, and I
But-
think they still will, because like anybody who's been to church, the pressure of not showing your face to church,
And not
even
showing
though
up at
you
the
don't
poll in your
believe, and not
small
showing up at the bowl,
town,
yeah,
and-
exactly, will be so great that these people will feel compelled to at least have to show up to vote. And
But
so-
will they vote for him, or will they leave it blank?
Can I
or
take
do
us
it
on a
right
small church tangent?
Please do.
In the tax bill of both, I'm not sure, churches can now be involved politically. I wonder, does that apply to all 501c3s?
I think
The
so.
nonprofits can
I
now
think-
be
I believe
politically
so,
engaged.
But I'm not 100% on that. But yes, that was on both of those churches.
Both of them. What do you think that's a big deal, or
Oh, that's a huge deal.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was already pretty much happening anyways. It was sort of like,
Yeah, I mean, it's
what
been
we were talking
happening
about,
for-
that not discrimination. We were talking about the Supreme Court case on Political Beat, sort of that same thing where it's like you couldn't outright say it, but you were so close to saying, well, if you were going to pick a candidate, you would choose the candidate who's pro-life, and things like that, where it was
See,
right there.
I think it
without being
actually
blatant.
might backfire. I think, and I don't think that this is like a California bubble thing, but the number of people who claim to be religious is dropping.
Yes.
And I think people want their church and state separate, and if their church starts trying to become the state, that they will be turned off. And
I hope so.
I
the
also
church.
I also think that there is a large swath of, like, when we talk about religion in this country, people automatically assume we're talking about Christians.
Right.
Donald Trump automatically assumes we're talking about Christians. He does not. Republicans don't seem to. I don't know how Democrats don't talk about this part of religion, where we're like, but it's not just about the Christian faith. Barack Obama
that's the whole
tried
thing,
every
is
once
that
in a
we
while.
say happy
Right.
holidays, and
Right.
they want us to say Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
Right, but the point is, if you look at Utah, for example, Mormons in Utah are not fans of Donald Trump.
No.
There are more Muslims in this country, obviously not fans of Donald Trump. Catholics not so much fans of Donald Trump. The small minority with the loudest voices that are fans of Donald Trump, Protestants, Baptists,
and the
evangelicals on that side. So I don't think that, to your point, I do agree that it could backfire because there are other religions that might be like, we're gonna vote. Jewish people, we're gonna vote for the Democrat because they believe in actually helping people, and they're not tied to some corporate thing. Now, when it comes down to social issues, obviously they're going to agree on some things. Yeah. But when it comes to the basic human decency of actually caring for people, I think you're going to see the Muslims go one way. You're going to see the Mormons go one way. You're going to see the Jews go one way, and it's going to backfire on Republicans because Republicans only focus on the Christian.
Well, and they're shrinking.
They are shrinking, but I still feel like you're sort of going to the church that speaks to you the most. And so if you're already going to a certain church or religious, whatever it is, it's because that's what you believe in. And so you're already going to, for the most part, I feel like, trend to go somewhere that's going to be supportive of you and your, what you believe in. And so therefore that kind of ties into probably the candidate you're going to go vote for. I mean, I know there's still people that go to churches and different houses of worship from their childhood and may agree something, but I don't feel like that's going to change their mind if they're not blatantly telling them who they're voting for. But
well, in terms of the Jewish vote, if you take a look at the numbers for Alabama, the Jewish guy in Alabama, Murray Lieberman, he has a deli in Birmingham. 100% of the Jewish vote is going towards Doug Jones, so that's encouraging. We only have a couple minutes left, as always. I'm sorry, Chelsea. We always run out of time. She's always very disappointed, and I feel like it's my fault because I talk too much.
Somebody else said that in the chat.
I want to.
Do you guys always say you run out of time? We do.
Yeah, we do always run out of time.
We can talk forever.
It's true. Just imagine if we could do a show where it's like, okay, we can go until the studio closes at midnight. Yikes. Well, we could raise money. We do a telethon.
Yes,
but anyway, I wanted to...
I could color the map in again, too.
Yes, you could. I wanted to... So, we're going on Political Beat, we did a great job. Thanks to Drexel for being more organized than I was. Looking back at 2017, but I did want to make one point, and we only have a little bit less than 5 minutes. I wanted to ask each of you, and it doesn't have to be a top moment, so take a moment to think about what's something in 2017 that it made you hopeful for the future, or you were just like, hey, there's a lot of crazy stuff going on right now, but this thing right here is great. It can be something that we talked about earlier, in terms of some of the politicians who were elected and stuff. Obviously, I have a very personal level because I had my daughter born a little bit less than a week ago, and that sort of can make you very hopeful for the future. And obviously, I've always considered myself to at least try to be very pro-woman, but then now that I have a daughter, forget it. It's completely
shotguns
different.
You're gonna be pro Second Amendment and pro woman.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. And I'll have that shotgun on the porch if I see Roy Moore coming anywhere. But anyway, Scott, do you have? Is there something that you're like, this was a good thing about 2017?
Well, I would say on the political side, the elections in November, I thought were that glimmer of hope, because I felt like too many times we were being pulled backwards, and a lot of things had happened. Second thing would be healthcare, but I think that waking up that next day after Election Day and seeing those results come in and see the type of candidates who won, and Medicare expansion in Maine won, by huge numbers, and I feel like when people go out to vote, sort of going back to what Chelsea said, they're not so evil after all. There are a lot of people that are about common sense and want positive change and want positive things out of their government, and so that was definitely for me a nice.
Is it going to be a reverse silver lining when Alabama elects a child molester? Is it going to take away some of the hopefulness for election returns?
Yes, but I'm going to enjoy the moment.
No, enjoy the moment. No, that's what we're supposed to do.
Enjoy the moment until December 13th.
Okay, hold on. Can we extrapolate from this? If Republicans see that the RNC supports a child molester and he gets elected, will Republicans, some moderate Republicans, be turned off by the Republican Party?
I certainly hope so. I hope that will be the case.
So it might be like a short win of the battle but lose the war?
Yes.
That's entirely possible.
I really do hope so, because it's really sad.
We've got 2.5 minutes. Drexel, what there has to be something that you felt like this was great about 2017.
I'll just go off of a little bit of what Scott was saying, from in the election in general, and that we're seeing more young people run for office. We're seeing more women run for office across the country. I mean, you know, right now, like I said, I know I keep bringing up the Atlanta race right now because it's happening, but there are 2 women vying to be the mayor of Atlanta right now, one of the largest cities in the country. And so I think you're going to see that no matter if you're a Republican, no matter if you're a Democrat or independent across the country. And I think that does make us hopeful that we're flushing out white male in general being the staple for politicians. And so I think that's making me very hopeful. Obviously, also Barack Obama, the Obama Foundation did a whole big youth summit in Chicago earlier this year that also made us very hopeful. And Barack Obama's still doing the good work that ex-presidents normally do, and it's been good.
Absolutely.
Chelsea, is your highlight from 2017 your crowning achievement, your proud moment, the fact that you became best friends with Jane Sanders?
You know what, actually, thank you for that, because I was trying to think of what possibly could be good. I mean, I guess, you know, 2016 was the year of, you know, be an activist and get arrested. And then this year, 3 times I've been to the Hill, and 2 of the times actually, like, really meeting with people.
And didn't get arrested.
Right, I was on the inside.
I have to admit, I was a little disappointed you didn't get arrested. I loved that you got arrested that in the past.
Well, thank you. I've turned a new leaf.
A new kale leaf.
So I guess my own personal feeling more involved, and I think if I'm feeling more involved, you know, other people who, like me, maybe a couple of years ago were not that politically inclined are getting involved. My concern, though, is the DNC is still sucking big time, and so if Democrats win in 2018 and it's based on anti-Trump rather than a pro-democratic message.
See, I think that if their message in 2018 is solely anti-Trump, I don't think that they will have the kind of wins that are expected because, you know, anti-Trump didn't beat Trump in the first place, you know. So
but I don't think that you see that in any of the Democratic messaging right now. In any of the leadership, it is not anti-Trump. It is anti-policy.
Right.
And Democrats have to continue to be
be anti, but here's our alternative that's better.
I think that's the problem, is that nobody can decide on what the path is in a way that's not going to alienate 2 sides of a party that's trying to get it down to the middle. Which is why I always say being a moderate is the best.
I do want to get a comment from the chat in before we run out of time. R. Scott Brown again has been on fire today. Where's Shareable Texas, by the way? Shareable Texas hasn't been here at all. I always say his name because I want to be in his next rap song. But R. Scott Brown says 2017 big win for me was finding out about your shows, both of our shows, Trump Report and Political Beat, and making the time to participate. Thanks to you all and for the thoughtful, faithful folks in the chat.
Well,
very nice.
Community.
And
Thank
you. We could not have said that better if I were not logged in as a fake account called R. Scott Brown and we're typing it in on my tablet as we did this. But yes, I mean, I think that it's great to be able to have these conversations. And, you know, when this show ended up being the Trump Report and we named it after Election Day, you know, maybe there's people at this table that it was a little bit more doom and gloom. And look, within rights, still should be there for some point. No matter who the president is, you should always look for what the problems are and how things can be better. But I love that we get the chance to talk about it. And it'll be very interesting to see how things play out in Alabama and with Russia. So as of right now, our plan is that we at the Trump Report will be back on Tuesday, January 9th. But if we're back sooner than that, then you know some real shit has gone down. And it's like, no, we have to be back before. Like if we're back next Tuesday, something crazy happened. You know?
Both shows.
Yeah, right. We're doing both shows again. So, but thanks to everybody who watches and or listens on iTunes. Make sure that you rate and comment, and if you if you feel obliged, subscribe, and you can follow us at Trump Report ABTV. Me personally on Twitter and Instagram, I'm at ChristianDMZ. And Chelsea, where can people find you?
At Chelsea Galicia.
And Drexel?
At Drexel Hurd.
And don't forget that the Political Beat will also be back sometime in January as well.
in January.
Probably the same day. But
the
we'll see.
same day, yeah.
And Scott Moore.
Yes, at S-Man80.
All right, thanks so much to everybody. And, of course, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, and for all my Star Wars nerd geeks out there, Happy Life Day, everyone, and Happy New Year as well. We'll see everybody next
live
year.
long and prosper?
No, that's Star Trek.
Star
Nice
Trek.
try. We'll see you next year, everybody.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.